Namaste and welcome to another edition of Live, Love, Engage. And I am really excited about my guest today because he is somebody that I have known for quite a while. And he's actually the reason, really, frankly, that I'm doing this podcast today. So I want to first off welcome Sam Crowley to Live, Love, Engage. And I'll tell you more about that in a second. So welcome, Sam.
Hey, Gloria, great to be here. Thanks for having me.
Well, I'm delighted to have you. And let me read a little bit about what Sam's bio is, and then I'll tell you how he's responsible for me being here today. So he is a speaker, author, and high performance coach. Specializes in helping everyday individuals create their own stage and share their $1,000,000 message. And he also has a podcast of his own. It's called Every Day is Saturday, and it's been downloaded over 20 million times in 225 countries. I still have a ways to go for that, but I'm getting there slowly. And Sam has also shared the stage with a who's who of speakers, including Tony Robbins, Les Brown, Bob Proctor, the late lovely Bob Proctor, John Maxwell, and many more, with the purpose of showing audience members how they can create a lifetime of Saturdays. And as I mentioned, how I got to know Sam is that back in 2015, he was speaking at some event I went to. I don't even remember what it was. And he was offering a course on how to launch a podcast. And so I said, I think this might be a good way for me to get my message out, to grow my business. And I invested in that course. And sure enough, I was able to launch a podcast. It was called Write, Sell, Succeed at the time and was all about online marketing. And I followed his directions and, got to be on that new and noteworthy on Apple and all that good stuff. And then life got in the way and I wound up putting it on hold for a few years. But now we are back and I'm proud to say I've been doing this for over 2 years now. So that's my version, my story. But I want to hear, and I know our audience wants to hear your story, Sam. So share with us where this concept of Every Day is Saturday came from and why you wound up actually then launching a podcast of the same name.
Yeah, that's great. Like I said, thanks again for having me on the show. I remember 2015. That was probably either a Peak Potentials or New Peaks, whatever the name was at the
Yes, you're
time.
right. I think it was. Yeah.
Yep. And you invested in yourself. And there's a big lesson right there, going to live events and investing in yourself and your own personal growth and your business growth. And, whether you launched a podcast 7 years ago and you changed it, none of that matters. What matters is you actually said, hey, I got a voice and I want to actually share this. I'm not quite sure how or what it's going to, doesn't matter. The fact is you got going, you changed the name here and there, maybe some artwork, doesn't matter. None of that matters. What matters is you're still doing it 2022 and you're getting that message out there and people are listening. There's always people listening to podcasts. So, I launched my show, some almost 20 years ago. My daughter Madeline, I was stuck in the corporate rat race, and my daughter Madeline was 3 years old at the time, and I never saw her because I worked all the time. And one night I came home from work, and it was a Monday night, a cold November evening here in Ohio, and but was tucking her in, and she said, "Daddy, is tomorrow Saturday?" And I said, "Well, no, it's not. Why do you ask?" And she said, "Because that's the only day we get a chance to see each other." So that just hit me right there. Like sometimes you have these epiphanies and, it's not a lightning bolt coming from above, but pretty close. And so I went to bed that night, didn't sleep well at all because, my whole goal was to be a father. My dad left my mom to raise 8 kids by herself back in Bradford, Pennsylvania in the late 60s. Wouldn't know the guy if he walked in the room right now. And I don't use that as any kind of victim talk. I'm just saying that actually propelled me to want to be a father. But here I found myself not being present with my kids. Now I have 4 daughters. Madeline's the oldest. She's going to graduate from the University of Cincinnati this year. That's how fast time flies, Gloria, and we all say I'll get to it someday or one day. And next thing you know, 20 years go by and your kids are off to college or having their own kids. And you're looking back like, where was I? So that's what drove me. I'm not saying it's the right way. It's the only way. I'm just saying that was my message and why I got started. So I started podcasting, sharing the hope and the vision of making every day Saturday for men and women all around the world. And some 20 million downloads later, here we are with my own podcast. And, I never, and everybody can say I had this vision. I did think about being a speaker. I'm not going to lie. I did. I thought about sharing the stage with those people you mentioned, but I never believed it because I come from a poverty mindset and growing up on, not a lot going on. And so I thought about it, but but what I found was that if you just keep doing what you're doing, good things are going to happen, because things start to conspire in your favor, because you start attracting like-minded individuals into your sphere of influence. And next thing you know, yeah, I'm on a stage here, I'm on a stage there. You saw me speak on a stage, and they don't just let anybody speak at those events. You have to be able to, not only speak, but be able to actually move the needle, not only for the promoter, but the people in the audience. And whenever I talk, I always have zero expectation that anybody's going to buy my course or come on board as a client. I have no expectation. All I want to do is serve, because I've been in that audience before, and I've had the big pitch. I never wanted to be that person. And hopefully you didn't feel that way. You bought because you're like, oh, I like this guy, seems to vibe with me, and I think I want a podcast. I think there's a great lesson there. When you go in with no expectation, but a real whole lot of passion, good things are going to happen for you. So it's kind of my abbreviated version of how it all went down.
Well, I love it. And there's so many good nuggets in there that you just shared, and I'm trying to be able to pull them all out here. But one of the things is the having no expectations. I think that is a really good lesson for entrepreneurs in particular, because sometimes we get very stressed out about making sales. And I know even I've done a lot of speaker training, and they will talk about the fact that training you the right way to be able to make a presentation, to be able to then make an offer, and then hopefully have that offer purchased, I guess, or invested in.
Yeah.
The thing is that sometimes we get too caught up in that, and we get too concerned about, and then people can feel that, and then they're not going to invest with you if you're coming at it from that lack mindset. Oh, I know the other thing I wanted to talk about, which I thought was interesting too, is that I don't know if you have noticed this, but it seems that all of the really successful people, or maybe not all of them, but a lot of successful people, a lot of successful speakers have come from backgrounds where they were, I wouldn't say disadvantaged, but I would say they didn't have maybe that support, or, they weren't, handed the silver spoon, shall we say. And I think that is also what helps them then to become good speakers and great speakers, because they've experienced that. What do you think? Have you noticed that?
No, absolutely. 100%. Think of Les Brown, Mrs. Maybe Brown's baby boy. And Les was always called DT, which stood for, when he was in the 5th grade, the dumb twin, because he had a twin brother, Wesley. So it was Wesley and Leslie. Les was deemed by the education system to be educably retarded at the time. We're talking the 60s. And, when you hear him tell a story, and he was called the dumb twin and labeled this and labeled that, here this guy could speak in arenas of 40,000 people. Just go on YouTube, you can see his stuff there. And, there's a lot of that, men and women. I've listened to the Janet Atwoods of the world, the Lisa Nichols of the world, the people like that. And they all have, not only, I don't know about the disadvantaged background, but you're right. Everyone that you just mentioned has. I mean, Bob Proctor, the late Bob Proctor, now feels weird to say that, but Bob is an individual who, he doesn't even have a high school. He didn't even have a high school degree, and speaking is more about passion. It's not about being able to articulate perfectly or say the right thing. I mean, most Americans communicate at a 7th grade level, and that's the way we talk every day. Like, when we're hanging out at the kitchen table or with our friends or at Starbucks, we don't try to put fancy words together. And I think that's where speakers get caught up. And you could say this in any kind, whether it's email marketing or social media. When people put a post out there, they try to say the right thing and the perfect thing. And I think with a podcast, especially, if you speak how you always do, it's so natural for you to speak that way. And that's why I think everybody should have a podcast. And when you speak on stage, don't get caught up in the fact that now you're on a riser, 3 feet above everybody else. You're just at Starbucks having a conversation, telling people why you're so passionate about the topic you're speaking about. And if you keep it simple, my motto is do simple better. So pick something, keep it simple, do it better than anybody else out there. And the reason it's better than anybody else, Gloria, is because it's your story. It can't be copied. You can copy a piece of software, you can copy literature, or you can plagiarize this or that, but nobody could copy your story and your experience. So whether you come from, you're a trust fund baby, or whether you come from a trailer and getting free cheese like I did in school, it doesn't matter. What matters is that you speak the way you always speak, regardless. And the speakers you've seen on stage that you're like, does this guy or girl even know where they are right now? Do they know their audience? And you can tell right away. So I would just encourage anybody out there that, yes, become a public speaker, even if that means launching a podcast. I mean, I podcast from my car every day. Okay. I have a phone, I podcast in my car into my phone, create a 10-minute audio out the door. It's very, very simple. So that's kind of like where the advice I would give somebody is keep it simple, speak like you always do. You don't got to have the Toastmasters degree or anything like that. People really resonate with an authentic message.
Absolutely. And I love how you do keep it simple, and that fact that you are able to do it like in your car. I've gotten to be more elaborate. And I think it's just because my background, I actually used to work in television. So
okay. Yeah. Great. Yeah.
Although at the time I never wanted to be in front of a camera though. Never wanted to do that. So it was only when I started my business that I realized I have to like talk to people now. Oh,
yeah.
But I realized I do like it. So you get used to it. What, you talk about, I know that you really have a passion for helping people to be able to speak and be able to, whether it's launching a podcast or just being able to communicate. What gets you really excited about the work that you're doing and helping people that way?
Because I get an opportunity to coach people who's a former version of myself, So I look for people that have a high degree of motivation and energy. And you and I had this conversation a couple of nights ago. People want to be led. They don't want to be saved, well, they may want to be saved, but you can't save them. You need to lead them. So I look for people that want to be led. Like I didn't want to be saved. I knew I had to save myself. Of course I'm a Christian. I know that not everybody, I'm not here to save anybody in the Christian faith, but I accepted the Lord Jesus Christ into my heart and everything flows through him to me. I feel I have the Holy Spirit inside of me. So I've got God literally living inside of me. I can do anything I want to do. That's my mindset. Okay. That's my mindset there. So I don't really get too worked up either way, but I look for people who want to be led. They feel like they have a tremendous passion. They just don't know, they need to be funneled into the direction of where they want to go with their message. It's very difficult. If you ask people, what do you do? That can keep them up at night for a week. I don't know what I do. I mean, I know what I would love to talk about, but I don't know what I do. And that was me. It's like, great, I can be a motivational speaker, but you and I both know, Gloria, you've been to the motivational speaker get-togethers, and you feel good while they're talking, maybe for an hour afterwards, but then you're like, what do I do with that? So I look for people who have a high degree of energy, motivation. They understand that they're here for a purpose, and it's a very short period of time on earth. And they want to be able to get that message out while it's still inside and they still have time to do it. So that's really who I'm speaking to every day on my podcast. And, there's a lesson there as well. You're not going to be everybody's cup of tea, but you throw the seeds out there. Some will land on the rocks, some will land in fertile soil. The ones that land in fertile soil become the best clients. And it's how I was able to attract you into my inner circle with Every Day is Saturday, because I was speaking to you. You were a former version of myself. You were just getting started. You didn't have a podcast. Here we are, and I'd love to say it's more complicated than that. It just isn't,
I love that. That's true. And we do tend to overcomplicate things. I know I do. I live in my head a lot of the time. And so it's, I have learned now over the years to start leaning into my heart, because the heart is a lot smarter, frankly, than the brain. And I love that. One of the things I like to ask people like yourself, someone who's had modicum of success, and to be able to inspire, educate also as well, our listeners and viewers on YouTube, is to talk about challenges, because it's not always easy running a business or launching a speaking career or launching a podcast for that matter. So what's one of the biggest challenges you've ever had to overcome?
How much time do we have? My golly, I could tell you the one that just comes always to the front of my mind was our daughter, Susan, who's our youngest child. She'll be 8 years old this August, but she was born at 1 pound back in 2014. My wife's water broke at 23 weeks and she delivered Susan at 24 weeks, which is barely viable. And we were told she'd live maybe an hour or two. And this was at Cincinnati Children's Hospital, right down the road, 30 miles from where I live. And we're like, okay, well, we'll stay around. And we prayed and prayed. She made it through the first night. We were called down the second night to the NICU to say goodbye to her because she wasn't good. She made it through the second night. And long story short, she got a trach. She continued to grow from 1 pound to 2 pounds to 3 to 5. And she spent 221 days at Children's Hospital. Finally was able to come home. We set up a hospital in our living room, and we just lived out of there for the next couple of years, changing the trach, changing the ventilator, all of those things. cost 40,000 a month to have a ventilator. And we got a hospital bill for 1.3 million during that period of time. And, what do you do with that? I just laughed. When I got the first bill, I literally laughed out. You talk about an LOL, that was an LOL moment. Like, what am I going to do with $1.3 million paying for it? But you know what? All of that worked itself out. Pick up the phone, you talk to administrators and people in billing, they just put a different code in, 1.2 million becomes 100,000, just like that, and you just got to ask the right questions. You get better answers when you're always asking questions. And because I was an entrepreneur and I didn't have a job, imagine asking your boss if you could take 221 days off work to be there for your child every day. But I brought my laptop to the NICU every day, worked alongside my wife, Angela. So we would drop our 3 oldest kids who were in elementary and middle school at the time, drop them off at 8 o'clock, go down to Children's Hospital, come home by 2, pick up the kids, homework, bath, dinner, all of that, get them to bed, do the same thing again for 221 days. And had I not been an entrepreneur, Gloria, I wouldn't have been able to do any of that. So you get through adversity, reminding yourself why you ever got started in the first place. And I think that was my way of really understanding why I did this every day Saturday gig again, is to be there for my wife and be there for my kids. And now we got our daughter is going to be 8 years old. And it's just amazing. It's an absolute living, breathing miracle, as all humans are. But this story just had that extra caveat to it. So how do you get through adversity is you go through adversity enough. And I'll be 54 in June. So I've had my fair share of adversity. You don't live that long and not have that adversity. And I think it gives you a tremendous amount of wisdom. I would have never been able to deal with that in my 20s or even 30s, because I wasn't ready for that. And I think life prepares you for what's going to come your way because you went through challenges before. And I reminded myself, well, how did I get through those? The sun still came up the next day, went through a bankruptcy, the sun still came up the next day. And everything has its way of kind of, as long as you're still in the game, it's my philosophy is you still got a shot, and I never lost sight of why I was doing what I was doing. And I would still travel to Vancouver to speak, in LA and Dallas and Florida. We would work out arrangements with a nurse or my wife to watch over Susan. And we just still kept everything going. And through the grace of God, made it through,
Yeah, I remember the post that you would make on like Facebook, I think, about when she was, making progress and really, getting better, and it was amazing. And I can't
Yeah.
believe it's been 8 years
8
already.
years. Isn't that something?
Wow.
Yeah.
I do love the fact that this is a lesson, and it is why being an entrepreneur, even for all of the challenges that it can provide, but it really does have that wonderful gift of flexibility, and that you
Yeah.
can be able to take the time to be able to be with family members. I mean, I went through the same thing myself when my sister had cancer, and I flew out to Arizona to be with her because I live in Florida. And I remember going to one of her chemo treatments, bringing my laptop, and I would sit and work while
Yeah.
she's, just having that IV. So I know exactly, not exactly, but
No,
similar
but you've been through.
situation
Yeah,
to what we
sure.
were going through. Yeah.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah. Um, what impact would you like to leave? If I could speak today, what impact would you like to have on planet Earth during your lifetime?
Well, I think I'd like to change generations of the Crowleys.
Mm,
And I think we've been able to do that. Our kids don't know, my God, they don't know what it's like to grow up, the way my wife and I grew up. We changed that. There weren't smartphones, when we grew up. We actually had to go out and, meet people and knock on doors and play baseball or basketball, whatever that looks like, play the sandlot games. I never wanted my kids to feel like that. I want all my daughters, once they hit 16, there's a few rules in the Crowley house. You get a job, you pay your own car insurance, and you pay your own phone. That's the way it works. Non-negotiable here in the Crowley house. So got a daughter working at a hair salon, have another daughter working at Old Navy, daughter working at Walgreens. I think it's really important to get them into the workforce young, to get them experience that if they don't like a job, that's great. Now, you don't like one, go the entrepreneurial route. And if, I didn't I went to Penn State for a couple of years. It just didn't really vibe with me. But I don't talk my kids out of going to college. I don't push my beliefs on them, but I want to change generations of my family. So when they have kids, they now have their foundation is built upon dad. They don't even remember me going to a job. None of them ever remember me having a job, And so I love the fact that my wife and I together, through the work that we've done, we had our 24-year anniversary 2 days ago. And, we've been able to change the generational curse within our family, whether that's alcoholism, whether that's poverty, whether abuse, whatever that looks like. That's the mark that I would be probably most proud of.
I love that. And it's so wonderful that you are teaching your daughters about that, about the fact that just because you have a degree of success, that it doesn't mean that they get handed everything. That I love
No,
that they
no,
still need to
no.
be able to work and to pay their bills.
Yeah,
And yeah, I've felt the same way about my kids. I mean, I still remember when my son everybody was having an Xbox, and I was like, no, I'm not going to buy you one. If you want it, you better earn the money
yeah,
to buy it yourself, because you don't need that stuff. I'd
yeah,
rather you read a
yeah.
book.
Yeah, because you and I both grew up around kids who had everything given to them. And then you fast forward when they're in their 40s and 50s and they don't know how to cope. You talk about learning what it's like to go through adversity. Well, if you go through it at a younger age, and I mean, it's all relative, but my daughter's adversity is, hey, I don't have enough money to go to Starbucks. Well, guess what? You're not going to Starbucks. That's just the way it is. That's very minor in the grand scheme of things. But at the age of 16, it starts teaching the lesson that, hey, I got to have some discipline, and I don't really get everything that's given to me. And when they're in their 30s and 40s, those small lessons will stay with them. At least I believe they will when they become older.
Oh yeah, absolutely. In fact, it'll be with them even as they get into their 20s, because my
Yeah.
kids have, I am very proud of them because they are saving money. I mean, they don't have like huge amounts of credit card debt. In fact, I don't think they have any credit card debt, because they have learned from my husband and I, and they have applied those lessons. So they're so way ahead of where I was. Let's put it that
Yeah.
way, when I
Yeah.
was their
Yeah.
age. So I'm really happy for that. Um, One other question I want to ask you about, and this is something I love to ask our guests too before we finish up today, is that what are you curious about right now?
Well, I'm curious. Really, I lead a small group. So we have a weekly small group, and this is really funny because they call me kid. I mean, we're talking about 88-year-old, 75-year-old, 74-year-old men and women. And I started in this small group. We started studying the book of Jonah back in 2017, and I was the new guy at the time. And, I didn't, I'd love to tell you, I knew my Bible in and out. I knew who wrote it, and that's probably about it. Okay. And so I got involved in the small group, and it just started working on me and working on me. And I saw life through the lens of an 80-year-old, which is much different than seeing it through the lens of somebody much younger than that. And it gave me tremendous perspective. And it really got me curious about a relationship with Jesus. It got me curious about my faith. It got me curious about what would it be like to not have worry, anxiety, and fear in my life, which really used to be a big, big part of my life. So I'm very curious about God, Jesus, the Holy Spirit, my walk and my faith, and how that permeates not only through myself and my wife Angela, through our kids and through generations. And again, this may not be a popular opinion, but we don't force our kids to go to church. Okay. I go to church, and if they want to join me, I think that's great. And if they don't, I don't be like, you're going to hell, no, repent. But the old adage, I can't hear a word you're saying because your actions are telling me everything I need to know, really is what I kind of live by. So they see my wife and I leading a small group. Now I lead our small group. Like, I'm the leader. Okay. I'm the one that passes out the handouts, gets us going. We're studying 1 John right now for the past 6 weeks. And they're like, Sam, you're just a great Bible leader. And I can't even tell you, my wife laughs because she's like, this isn't you. Like, she's proud of how it's evolved, but she just laughs sometimes because that's how everything evolved over the past 5 years. So I'm less curious about money. I used to be very interested in money. I used to be very interested in wealth. And don't get me wrong, I still listen to The Science of Getting Rich every day by Wallace D. Wattles. I still listen to Earl Nightingale, because I really believe those are biblically based as well. And I think there is a science to getting rich. I think there is a science to being wealthy. And it's not just about money, it's about relationships and it's about health. And so I'm very, very curious about my spirituality. I think that's a long answer to your question, but that's really where my curiosity lies right now.
I love it. And I'm absolutely 100% with you. In fact, I'm doing the Science of Getting Rich myself again for,
Yeah.
the umpteenth time. And actually, I
Yeah.
just started
Good.
listening to some Earl Nightingale. I found on YouTube, people have uploaded his stuff. So I've been listening to some of his, and it's like, oh, I see where Bob Proctor got some of his stuff from, and,
Oh
and other
yeah.
people. And
Yeah.
it's like, yeah,
Yeah.
it's amazing. And I think too that it is something that we start looking at, I think probably especially as we do get older,
Mhm.
and when you experience things like, with your daughter, when she
Yep.
was, going through those health challenges of just to try to be born and to try to live every day, that it does get you started to think about that. So I appreciate you sharing that with me.
Oh, my
And
pleasure. My
and
pleasure.
with the rest of everybody listening, is there anything else that I should have asked you about that you'd like to be able to share with us? Anything else about business
No, that's
life or anything that
not that I can think of. We covered a good amount right there, and of course we could talk for hours. I mean,
yeah,
obviously, but I think for the purpose of your message right now and what we've talked about, I loved it. I thought it was a great conversation. And again, it was authentic, no script. It's not like you sent me questions ahead of time and I was
that's
prepped.
right.
These are brand new to me, had never heard them before. And it's a great conversation. I hope people got something out of it.
Awesome. Well, I hope they did too. And if anyone is listening today and would like to, check you out and either check out the podcast or maybe learn more about possibly working with you, where is the best place for people to get a hold of you?
I'd say two places. Number one, wherever you get podcasts, wherever you download them, just look for Every Day is Saturday. It's a great place to start. I do a daily podcast and it's motivational, and it'll help you not make a bad 5 minutes into a bad day. How about that? And then when you're ready to launch your own podcast, you can go to launchmymovement.com and get started. And I'll work with you to make sure your show gets done the right way and you start getting downloads immediately.
Excellent. All right. Well, I will be sure and have all of that information in the show notes so that in case you are listening somewhere and you don't have any way to be able to check it out, you can go to liveloveengagepodcast.com and you'll be able to get all of that information there. So thank you so much for taking time out of your day today and spending it with us, Sam. I really appreciate all the good work you're doing in the world. And yeah, glad that you were here with us today.
Thanks, Gloria. My pleasure. Thanks so much for having me.
Oh, and thank all of you as well. I want to thank you for listening and for watching. And again, make sure that if you like what you hear today, that you tell a friend, and so we can get some more people being able to benefit from lovely guests that we have on the program like Sam. So I encourage you to go out and do that. And also, before I close, as always, I encourage you to go out and live fully, love deeply, and engage authentically.